On my drive this morning, I've been thinking of sometimes in life we feel as we're going through a storm and Jesus is nowhere to be seen. And I'm going to give you a message today called "The Baskets Are Still in the Boat." Before we talk about the storm, before we talk about fear, doubt, and wind that could kill a man, we need to talk about the miracle. Because sometimes we panic in the storm while still holding the evidence of God's provision. Let me show you. Mark chapter 6, verse 45 says, "Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd." He sent them ahead. He stayed behind to pray. They obeyed and rode straight into the storm, because obedience doesn't always mean safety. Sometimes it means you're about to see a side of Jesus you've never known. Before the storm, there was a miracle. Before the wind howled and the seas roared, there was bread, there was fish, there was the impossible breaking in the hands of the Messiah. Mark 6:41, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people, and they watched it multiply. You see, they didn't just witness the miracle, they carried it. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 baskets full of broken pieces of bread and fish. Mark 6:42-43. 12 baskets. They had leftovers, one for each man who would soon forget, one for each heart that would soon panic, one for each disciple who would fear the storm, while holding the proof that Jesus provides. They had just watched him break the bread, 5 loaves and 2 fish, thousands fed. 12 baskets were left over. It's proof, evidence, leftovers of a miracle. And then the storm hit. A storm you might be going through in your life right now. Wind howling, waves crashing, feels like darkness swallowing everything. And Jesus, nowhere to be seen. But the baskets were still in the boat. Mark 6:52 says, "They were completely amazed, for they had not understood about the loaves." Their hearts were hardened. They didn't get it. They didn't connect the miracle to the moment. They had the evidence of his power right beside him or them, and still they panicked because Jesus wasn't showing up the way they expected. And you might be feeling that way in your life right now. He didn't stop the storm from a distance. He walked on it. He saw them straining at the oars. He went out to them walking on the lake. He was about to pass them by. That's Mark 6:48. I want you to let that sink in. He saw them struggling, and he walked toward them, but he was about to pass by. Not because he didn't care, but because sometimes he waits to be recognized. Sometimes Jesus comes in a form we don't pray for. Sometimes he shows up in a way that terrifies us. They saw him walking on the lake and they thought he was a ghost. Also, Mark 6:49. Because fear will lie to you. Fear will tell you Jesus is far away when he's standing right on top of the thing that threatens to take you under. But he said, "Take heart, it is I. Don't be afraid. I am." The same voice that thundered from a burning bush in Exodus now echoes across storm-tossed waves. And here's the truth. That fear you feel, that shadow on the horizon, that chaos all around you, it might not be the devil. It might be Jesus coming closer than he ever has before. Walking on what should have drowned you, coming in a shape you didn't expect, to reveal a piece of himself you've never seen. If Lazarus dies, he's a resurrection, John 11:25. If you're blind, he's the light of the world, John 8:12. If the boat is breaking, he still commands the wind and the waves, Mark 4:41. So don't miss the miracle just because it changed forms. Don't forget the baskets. Don't forget what he did before in your life, because the baskets are still in the boat. You're still carrying evidence of his power, his provision, his goodness. What he broke, he blessed. What he walked on, he conquered. What he fed you with, he'll fill you again. So when you're going through the storm, take heart. It's him.